The sport of off-road racing is full of incredible stories, wild characters, legends, and even villains. We cover it all on offroadracer.com, but there's only so much we can put down in an article. Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, and that means sitting down with some of our industry's most influential characters and hitting record. Welcome to the Off-Road Racer podcast, a Mad Media production, made exclusively for offroadracer.com. Each month, we'll go beyond the dirt into the homes, shops, and lives of the most interesting and game-changing icons of our sport. You'll hear about their history, success, failure, and everything in between as we pull back the curtain and reveal the stories of their lives. I'm your host, Matt Martelli, and this is the Off-Road Racer podcast. I'm Matt Martelli. This is the Off-Road Racer podcast, and I'm here with my new and good friend, Eric Pond. What's up, man?
Not much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you had a pretty good go at the California 300.
We did. Yeah, that was a tough battle, but we managed to pull it off. So
yeah, it's always interesting. Like, I'm a huge lover of vintage cars, and you have one of my favorites. Talk a little bit about why you chose that vehicle.
Well, like you, just being a vintage guy all my life, and I had bought that prior to like Broncos exploding and all that, and was just having fun and thinking like maybe doing some stuff to it as like a weekend warrior kind of thing. And then my neighbor asked me to pit for him at the Mint 400. And I came home and completely changed direction. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I was sold. I was hooked even before I raced. It was just, this is what I want to do.
And what year was that?
16 or 17.
Okay, yeah.
And just went home and changed complete direction. And then I think it was like 18, finally started racing, which was an absolute blast.
And what year Bronco is that?
That's a 69.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And you have a unique wrap around it that's themed around, you raising money for cancer, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you have a crazy story. Tell us your story, because it's really interesting for us because, we have 400 and something teams that race with us at the Mint, and then 150 to 200 racing with us at various races, and all different types of people from all different types of background, which also creates all these different stories. And you have one of those stories that's pretty incredible.
It's been a journey for sure. Let alone just going in there into this just green as green could be, and things really started developing for us. And then 19 seemed to kind of be our year where things just completely went our way, and all these opportunities started opening up. And then January 21 came down with a cancer diagnosis. And as quickly as these doors opened, they kind of just shut. And it was 2 years of surgeries and treatment and that kind of thing. And managed to sprinkle in a race here or there in between recovering from surgery or after radiation or whatever I was doing. And then slowly started making this comeback. And unfortunately, the cancer came back, found out last year. And then it became stage 4 metastatic, and that was just another real good kick in the guts. But back here now, finished up our second round of treatment December 19th of 23, and that whole motivating thing was, okay, well, 24 is going to be my year. 2 years of being down it was tough, but I always had this motivating thing with this passion with off-road racing, and the thing that really got me going was now being stage 4, it opens up all these treatment options and things like that, and that's where the Cancer Research Institute came in and did immuno-oncology along with radiation and then some other drugs, and the whole time going through that was kind of the motivating thing, because I knew Parker was around the corner and the Triple Crown, and what a great platform for giving back to the people that have essentially prolonged my life, and it went gangbusters. I still am dumbfounded about how well it's been going, and we managed to raise nearly $15,000 for the Cancer Research Institute, and now I'm just on this 2-year kind of like drug cruise where I kind of have a somewhat predictable life,
Sure.
Other than just the side effects from the drugs. That can that hurts every once in a while.
I imagine.
Well, it was only 3 weeks after treatment was the Parker 400, and it was so early in the game of, starting to minimize drugs or things like that, because some of them are kind of hard on the brain. And now I'm to a point, like, before a race, I can take like half dose for a week and then no drugs on race day, and I get a little bit of my motor skills back. I get a little clarity in my brain, which helps. And
Yeah.
that's been a big game changer.
I mean, has that been like one of the things that's been driving you, is like being able to go, okay, I have this thing that I'm looking forward to?
Absolutely. That's what kept me going, really, because after being down for 2 years, and then I would get back to a spot where I wanted to be, and then it was just bam, here's another thing that's wrong, and I needed that. I mean, this year has been so spectacular, and it's been, off the track even, everything from getting married to going to places I haven't been, and just making the best of actually having free time from hospitals and clinics and that kind of thing. And, when I have bad days, there's drugs for the drugs,
Sure.
Which, I don't know. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but
Yeah.
you just keep plugging along, and that's one of the keys, it's like just love pals and racing, and that keeps me going.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's an incredible story, that you're still out doing it, but also that you chose to create a fundraiser, for cancer. Talk about that a little bit and how people can, join and be a part of that.
Well, through the Cancer Research Institute, and actually it's gotten to a point now where if you just even type in like Eric Pond off-road racing, and all of a sudden here's all this Cancer Research Institute, and I actually have a QR code now, and that's even on the side of the truck, and people can just scan that, and it takes them to a direct link to the Cancer Research Institute, and you got... Yeah, it's been a huge help. Yeah,
No,
exactly. It's direct and safe and all that good stuff. And,
yeah.
The Cancer Research Institute has one of the highest charitable navigation ratings, which was really a driving factor for me. And, every penny goes to where they say it's going to go. And, nothing wrong with help prolonging a life.
Definitely not. We were talking earlier, and you'd spent, a lot of your time living in Montana and just recently moved to Wickenburg area. What's that transition been like?
It's been tough because it happened years ago, like 3 years ago, but it was also during, treatment, no treatment, treatment, no treatment, and just, would start establishing some relationships, and then I would disappear for like 6 months and go take care of what I had to take care of, and people are like, what the hell happened to you?
Yeah.
But now being there full time since July 1, unfortunately settling in there full time at the hottest part of the year. But,
Right.
But that's a whole nother thing with like opportunities opening up. Like with Trophy Lighthouse, I got asked to help them out with the Baja 400, and that's been fantastic and went well enough that they asked me to help some more. So now I'm going to go down and do Baja 1000 with them, which I'm super psyched about. These are all lifelong dreams, you know, and it's all kind of coming to fruition, and what at such a great time, I needed this.
Yeah, no, it's funny how that works, and it's interesting because, like, to your point, like, you had a friend bring you in as pit crew, and it opened up this whole world to you, right? And it's something that, like, I think is really important about our culture and how that works and brings people and proliferates it.
Yeah, the camaraderie still just blows me away to this day. It's only been about 8-9 years, I think we've been at this, and the friendships have made. And, like I cut my teeth up in Montana with the Yellowstone Off-Road Race Series. And, there's lifelong friends there for sure, and going to help my buddy out at the Mint 400 for sure. And I don't know, I might get talked into racing again. That's right there with one of my favorite races, the Big Sky 200 with Yellowstone Off-Road Racing, and the Mint 400. Just, I don't know why, but well, I know why, but they mean a ton to me. And
yeah,
they're just great races.
Well, which is interesting because typically, it's funny because I get all these guys who want to race in vintage classes, and the Mint isn't one I recommended in a vintage car, right? It's rough. Parker is a lot more, doable, in terms of vintage cars, but sometimes you got to take what you got, right?
Exactly. Parker 400 was a great race, and love that course. I don't know. I guess it's just really all the mystique about the Mint 400 and the pre-race festivities. It's that week-long high of race there is just...
it's iconic, and it's unique. It's funny because, we were always trying to, replicate it, and it's hard to replicate, it's one of those things where, Vegas is Vegas as a backdrop. It's just a amazing city. And then the history of that race, and it's funny because that race has a lot of history with Broncos, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what a great way. That was one of my first real big races I had ever done, and we managed to pull off a second the first year we did it, and then backed it up with a second again following this year, and so 2 for 2 on that, which we're really super psyched on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, the Mint 400, like I was saying, was just, you ride such a high for so long, and then everything comes to this end so quickly, and then it's the post-race depression lasts forever.
The funny thing, the post-race depression is real even for us, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's, Killian and I remember one year, it was a few days after the Mint, and we had to do cleanup and everything, and there was these electronic billboards that were advertising before the race, and we're driving out of Vegas, and they're not playing the Mint stuff anymore. They're on to the next thing, and we're just wow, it's Vegas doesn't care. They're on to the next thing, right? So yeah, you have the post race oh, okay, when is the next cool thing that we can have this feeling back?
It was a long 6 months to the Cali 300 for sure. But and then was able to squeeze in a race. The Big Sky 200. Got that in June, which was nice. Unfortunately, wasn't able to race that. Got the vehicle there, and the Bronco was ready to go. It's just I wasn't.
Yeah.
But Wade Pickering from Queen City Off Road, who's been with the Iron Casket since day one, gladly hopped in the seat and drove that for us. So
Iron Casket's the name of your car?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And that went well. It helped us work out a couple of bugs, which I'm glad it happened there versus at the Cali 300. So
sure.
But a good time for sure. But 6 months is a long time to wait. So I'm glad you guys now have 4 races.
Yes, we have 4 races. So we're trying to continue to build on the success of the Mint and our other races. So it's gonna be fun. And the Reno 600 is gonna be a spectacular race. It's a really, really fun course, especially for a vehicle like yours. It's not very rough. It's a lot of technical, windy, fast roads, sand washes, real big variety of stuff. It's a really cool area.
Nice. We're looking forward to that. We're all trying to figure out how we're going to handle this because everyone wants to do it. And our team up in Helena, there's a side-by-side, there's a U4, and there's myself. And we're like, well, how the hell are we going to pit everybody?
Yeah. It's doable. I mean, that's the one thing, too, about when we look at races, we're always trying to, make the chase and the pitting doable, so that every team can do it. So on this one, you're going to need some chase support, but not a ton, not a ton. So.
Yeah. Well, we're just doing nothing but speculating about it right now, So we're dying for the course map and that kind of thing and wondering how we're going to handle it, but we'll get it done somehow. We seem to manage that somehow, so.
Nice.
Attention race fans. Unlimited off-road racing returns to Parker, Arizona with the second annual Parker 400, Wednesday, January 15th through Sunday the 19th. Bring your friends and family to kick off the start of the 2025 race season. Come meet your favorite drivers, see the latest and greatest off-road products on the market at the Parker Downtown Experience, and witness 3 days of non-stop door-to-door racing. Check theparker400.com for more information. The Parker 400 returns.
And so, with your experience now racing, obviously you were talking about how much you would like the Mint, but have there been moments that you're like, you really had an experience where, you're in the car and you're just like, wow, this is awesome.
Every race, all the time. It's just, and I've been co-driving, since this cancer thing. I've been doing quite a bit of co-driving as well, which is a spot I've never been in. And I kind of bum out Wade because, in a sense, like I just start kind of, this is awesome, man. He's like, well, what am I supposed to be doing up here?
Sure.
It would have been nice to have known about that turn.
Yeah.
But it's just spectacular. Everything about it from start to finish, like even just getting ready to leave your house to getting back, it's just, I don't know, it's almost like hunting, getting ready for the hunt and, packing and the hunt itself and the camaraderie with your partners and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know, I like every aspect of it.
Yeah, no, me too. I agree. Before you went to a race, the area obviously that you lived in, a lot of dirt roads, right? So is that how you kind of got indoctrinated into off-roading and even looking at a Bronco to buy?
Well, I did a lot of pretending that I was a racer. But, yeah, a lot of dirt road driving, but grew up with that. And, like I was saying, just always been a dream. And then it just kind of happened. I mean, I don't know if it would have ever happened if my neighbor didn't ask me to pit for him back in 16 or 17, whatever. Right. It was just such an eye-opener, and it was just like instantly I just gravitated towards it, and it was just something I knew I had to do. Yeah,
no, that's cool. I mean, there's nothing better than having that firsthand experience, experience in off-road racing, especially from a pit, right? Because like when you're a spectator, we've had, quite a few spectators turn into racing or turn into racers because they came and they spectated and they're like, I want to be in the race car, right? Right. But pitting is different, and it's a really cool experience if you get the opportunity to volunteer for a team, I always say between the pit crews and the volunteers that are doing checkpoints and stuff, that's the best seat in the house. Absolutely. Right? Like you're getting to see stuff that nobody else gets to see, and there's usually some sort of drama, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a race without drama.
Right.
And that's a great thing, I mean, besides just driving, you're using your brain and have to be fast on your feet or whatever the case is. And, it's a good time. I love the, how everyone brings their own thing to the table, and it makes it all happen, so.
So why'd you choose a Bronco as a vehicle platform?
Well, always been a vintage guy, and it was a toss-up. I bounced back and forth between a Scrambler and a Bronco, and I don't know. I just gravitated towards it, and I love the history with the Bronco and off-road racing.
Yeah.
Particularly after watching all that Mint footage from back in the day and everything. When I first got introduced to this, I'm just like, that's the way to race.
Yeah. It is like, it's funny because like I think it's obviously it's the age demographic too of like when you fantasize about yourself being a racer, like what is the vehicle that you're in? What do you want to look like? And I remember being a kid and I just wanted to look as cool as McQueen did. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it was like, I got, moved to California and I'm like, oh, I want to be Parnelli Jones. He's the cool guy, right? Or James Garner, right? It's like
Exactly.
you start seeing all these iconic racers, actors, so on, and in these vintage vehicles that now it's funny because like you pointed out, like the Broncos come back and been this huge success and really proven like there was a lot of people out there who that affected.
It did, and like you're pulling out names. I mean, Ivan Stewart was our hero growing up. I mean, I don't know how many quarters I plugged into his video games and things like that. And that's what, my brother and I always dreamed about. We're like, we got to go do this. This is awesome. We could do this.
Yeah. No, Ivan for sure. I mean, I remember, watching him on Wide World of Sports, right? And a huge influence on my brother and I. So, no, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, in the process of doing this, has there been anything that you've learned along the way that's kind of surprised you, better, good or bad?
I'm sorry.
No, in the process of becoming a racer, right? Like, like it's been, it's like it's always an interesting thing because people have like an idea of what it's going to be like. Then they get in the car and they're like, holy shit, that's not what I expected. Have there been things along the way that you've experienced that you're like, okay, this is good, this is bad, or surprised you?
Right. Well, there are points like in the first several races, I guess there are points where like, I was like, God, all I do is want it out of the car.
Right.
But then when it's over, it's like all you want to do is get back in the car, but it's pretty taxing and draining and all that. And usually around like the 60% way, you're just like, oh my God, how much further do we have left? Like Cali 300 was a perfect example. That was a tough course and I was wore out, but physically and mentally, I just, I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, absolutely. No, and it's interesting too because like, a lot of people, would come across the physical and mental challenge of fighting cancer and they would just only do that, right? Whereas, you're doing it and, you're out competing as well. You think that that's important?
absolutely. Having a passion and being driven for something is such a motivator. Absolutely. Because if I just made my whole life hospitals and clinics and, it would be really depressing. And then you just fall further into a hole and there's no getting out, at some point. And having this year that we had was just unbelievable. I mean, everything. I tried making the best of it. I've got this 2-year, drug cruise, where I know my life is predictable as it's going to be.
Right.
And, unfortunately, as exciting as it is, I have to get off these drugs at some point. It's terrifying, but, there's another drug down the road some point, so hopefully I can just kind of keep riding that wave, but.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely
making the most of what you can, when you can, and while you can is critical.
Well, I think it's an example too of like how to live, right? Like we're all going to, face these challenges, on all different levels, and we can't let it stop us from living, and having these wonderful experiences that life's about.
Exactly. Yeah. And when the heat's on and it's time to, start attacking that bucket list, which was another really attractive thing to the Triple Crown. It was like, gosh, I can knock out some races I've been dying to hit forever.
Sure.
No pun intended. But,
yeah.
But, and then like to keep on keeping on, there's just, I got to take advantage of this while I can. And, October or November of 25 is when I come off those drugs, and then it's just like, well, cross your fingers and we'll see what happens. And I intend to do everything I possibly can to keep hitting the bucket list. You know? And like I last week ended up making it to upstate New York, which was absolutely gorgeous, and never been there. And
especially right now, are the leaves turning and stuff?
leaves were full on going off, and I was up there with my wife and her family and everything, and great time for sure. And there's been a lot of one-off things this year, everything from getting married to the Triple Crown racing, and just having an epic year.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome.
Getting down to Baja with Trophy Light and meeting up with all those guys. I was dibbling and dabbling as I first moved to Wickenburg, and I would pop in there and say howdy do. I'm so-and-so, and I plan on being around here at some point, but I think I got to go for some treatment. I'll see you in 3-6 months.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Jason and his crew are great people. His son as well, the Cobbs. And we're very passionate about off-road racing, which is great. So was that your first time to Baja, was during the 400?
It was.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just like the men, I'm hooked. I was just like, and I was just hoping it would all work out, I didn't know any of these people from Adam, so it was, when I got asked to do this, I was like, so what's the shortest one in case you guys don't like me or I don't like you, at least it's not this like 3-week-long commitment, and it was just awesome. It's just, birds of a feather. How do you guys not get along,
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you look at it, it's like a distillate, right? Or a distiller, where it's like, first off, people that don't want to get their hands dirty or do work, they're not coming, right? Because it's not that type of a journey, right? And then you get, you start learning about people very quickly in a chase truck and in those situations, and you make friends in a way that I think is, I guess, like more intense and more fast forward than normal life, right? Because normal life, it would take you maybe years to figure out, well, that guy's not going to come through for me, right? Like when in off-road racing, you're finding it out right away.
And I find that just an awesome way to make friends and meet people is to be doing this epic stuff, and obviously everybody has the same common bond, and it just expedites relationships. I mean, it's been a great journey for sure.
What was there anything like when you went to Baja? Was there stuff you're like you were surprised about, or just kind of like, I didn't expect that?
Well, I'd seen enough, like videos and things like that. But still, like Tech and Contingency was awesome. I mean, it's still, like the Min 400 is great and all, but like the bands and everything that were down there. I mean, I love how festive it is down there.
Yeah.
Tech and Contingency was awesome, but I love the fact you can get an awesome taco and it doesn't matter where you are broke down on the track. There's somebody with great tacos.
Yeah.
And it was just, the scenery's awesome, and doing everything from pitting up in the hills to down on the beach.
Yeah.
You just can't beat it,
Yeah, especially when you have somebody like the Cobbs kind of guiding you and going like, okay, here's the program, here's what we're doing, and you're not guessing. That's a very important part of having a good experience in off-road racing, and in particular in Baja.
It's amazing how organized the Cobbs are. I mean, even with our race books, it had mile markers of where the bad potholes were on the road, for chase crews. And I mean, it was just awesome. And they know everything down there by like the back of their hand, and they made me feel really welcome right off the bat, and it was just a great time for sure.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm excited for you to go back during the 1,000, because the 1,000 goes a little bit deeper into Baja, where this year's a loop, but it still goes into some really pretty areas, that are a little bit more like out of the city and off the beaten path, and you'll probably get to see some really cool stuff.
The loop is going to be a neat thing. And it actually was kind of a relief to hear it was a loop this year, because right after the 1,000, I've got to get up to Salt Lake for treatment. So it's like it couldn't have worked out better. You know, it's been a good year for the way things have been working out schedule wise. So it's nice. Things are finally going kind of like in my favor, and opportunities are coming back that, you know, we're popping up here and there in late 20, and things just came to such a screeching halt in January 21, and my life just got turned so upside down. It's like, God, is this ever going to come back around? And like I was telling Killian now, you know, I mean, things are coming full circle, and, you know, that helps too, you know, I mean.
Sure.
No, everything, life is very motivating right now, and that makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know, would you have any advice for, you know, somebody out there who ends up getting diagnosed with any form of cancer, really?
Yeah, it's all the standard cliches, you know, stay positive and things like that. But really what it comes down to is just, keeping driven and having a passion, and don't put those things aside, you know. And when those hospital or clinic doors close, that's where it all stays, you know. I'd walk out of a radiation clinic, and they're trying to hand me their water bottles and stuff. I'm like, no, that stuff's staying there. I don't want to see it,
right?
You know, and I would get in my car and head home, and, you know, I never thought about it, you know, unless I was in pain, you know, obviously. Sure. But to keep that just off into the back burner and focus on the passion of whatever it is you're pursuing, that's just the key, you know. And just the support group, and thank God for the support group I have between wife Karen and all my buddies up in Helena, Montana, from Queen City Off-Road, Team 406, and things like that, where we all help each other out. I mean, it's just been awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. You know, it's like, you know, takes an army, right?
Absolutely. Whether you're racing or fighting cancer. Yeah.
Totally.
It's been a great journey, and, you know, I've gotten as much out of cancer as it has taken away from me too, you know. I mean, relationships, the quality and things like that, you know, and mentally and spiritually. It's just, you know, I mean, physically I'm pretty, you know, I'm beat up and, you know, whatever, but you know,
but you know, you just finished the 300, so it's like
that wasn't easy. That was on a lot of Advil, and I took a lot of Advil afterwards.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's that's having something that motivates you and will keep you going for sure.
Attention, Off-Road Nation. It's time to prepare for war. The Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship comes ripping through Parker, Vegas, Reno, and Barstow in 2025. The biggest, baddest, and most prestigious desert off-road championship in the sport just got bigger. It all starts with the return of the Parker 400, January 15th to the 19th in beautiful Parker, Arizona. Then, it's the Super Bowl of off-road racing. The BF Goodrich Tires Mint 400 takes over Las Vegas March 5th through the 9th. Next, mark your calendars. It's a brand new race. The inaugural Reno 600 is coming this spring. Over 600 miles of Nevada desert racing. And finally, it's the exciting conclusion of the Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship, the 4th Annual California 300 in Barstow, California, October 1st to the 5th. Visit unlimitedoffroadracing.com for complete details. The 2025 Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship is coming. The future is unlimited.
Are there some additional races that you that are on your hit list?
The Mexican 500 next year.
Nice.
Then that's what I originally started building this Bronco was
Nora for the 500.
Exactly. Well, It was originally the 1000, and thank God they resurrected the 500. It makes
it's a little bit more doable.
Yeah, financially and logistically and everything about it. So that was a bonus. But but someday still the 1,000, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
But and then any other races, like the Blue Water Challenge and things like that. Love to do Vegas to Reno.
Yeah.
I pitted for my buddy Eric Weichel at Team 406 for this Vegas to Reno just this year, and he took third. And part of that's just all awesome too. And just cruising around Nevada, you can't beat that.
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's a good course for vintage cars, right?
Well, it seemed like it, from what I saw.
Yeah.
But just doing almost anything in a vintage car is where it's at. It was nice to see where some things have changed, like where you guys allow air bumps. It was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I absolutely love that people are racing vintage cars, but we don't want to put them through a course that's just going to destroy them. So allowing some of the more modern stuff, I think, is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was helpful for sure because Nora is even they're pretty restrictive down there.
Yeah,
but and I hope the air bumps will work, but I'd like to still stay in that pioneer class. And,
yeah,
kind of because that's what it was all about to begin with. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, look, the style of the Bronco, especially that era, the '69, is just iconic. It's just. Something that's just burned into my brain as a kid and seeing, Strop and, build cars for Parnelli and everybody else, so.
Yeah. And, I wish or like to think we've built something kind of equivalent.
Yeah. I mean, well, that was one of the things, like I'm a graphic designer, by nature and by trade originally. And so like, I see a lot of terrible vehicle designs, you know what I mean? And yours is clean.
Well, thank you. That's Queen City Off-Road. It's I wish we could have done it all at once, something I couldn't do. We've been building this thing for like 8 years, and
yeah.
we're finally at that point now where it's just like where we want to be, and
nice.
It's been great, We started racing before I probably should have. We didn't hit everything, but I had just as much fun tearing apart the front end on the very first race, as I did whatever racing,
Sure.
Even a bad day is a good day.
Yeah.
And it was an axle we knew we had to replace.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all those things are going to come up, but I think it's really cool, both as like a symbol of like, hey, keep going, right? But also too, raising awareness and raising funds for cancer. I mean, I think at this point, pretty much everybody in America has somebody that has been, touched by cancer. Like I lost my mom to cancer and one of my best friends to cancer. So it's something that's like, top of mind for a lot of people. And it's nice to see somebody, go through it and, not lose their zest for life of like, all right, like we're all in a 1 lap race. You know what I mean? Right. Like Bob Bauer says, it's just when is that race going to end? And, you're not in control of that. It's what you're in control of is, what you do every day.
Exactly. Yeah. And, it was tough, it's interesting how, like, because this started out just as prostate cancer, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's just prostate cancer," and it all I've ever known is how minimized it is.
Sure.
And the next thing I know is, here I am with this surgery, and they're taking out a bunch of stuff out of my pelvis, and then I've got a tumor on my bladder and a tumor on my colon, and then more treatment, and then it came back, and now it's up in my abdomen. And in the lymph nodes and the superhighway there, and now we're just doing the best we can to keep it out of my bones. And, that's where it's just kind of like where it's the terrifying part of coming off these drugs. And I think, with the things I did on this second round, I think we got the right combination. And, because it's weird how you can kind of, you get so in tune with your body, and it was bizarre. I remember waking up one morning shortly after being taken off the drugs the first time, and I don't even know what made me feel this way or anything like that, but I woke up, and before I even got my slippers on to go get coffee, I'm like, I said to my wife, I'm like, I feel like it's back. And there was nothing that made me feel that way. I just felt that way that day.
Sure.
It was weird. And the next thing I know, a few months later, and I get blindsided with this blood work that I do routinely. And I could tell in the gal's voice, the voicemail she left, I'm like, God, there's something wrong.
Right.
And then they picked up the phone on the first ring too, which I'm like, oh God, they're waiting for me to call.
Right.
And that's when I got that news that it returned, and then the rush to get the scans and find out where it is and what it's doing, and that was a pretty good kick in the guts. But here I am, and there may not be much left to me anymore, but at least I'm tough to kill.
Yeah, exactly. And you're finishing races.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad.
No, I can't complain whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the vertical world's a nice place.
This is true. This is true. And it's this thing that, again, another thing that Bob Bauer taught me of, like, just the question, like, when you're dealing with a car part failure or whatever, is like, do you still have forward momentum? Then keep going.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And other than that, like, whatever it is, you can fix it later. Keep going to that finish line. So.
And I hope I have a few more of those in me.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. Well, no, I mean, I really appreciate you coming in and doing this and sharing your story. I think it's important, let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.